Alright, so I have this Yagi antenna, and it's kind of old, so I'm sure the cable on it, the coax, has moisture in it and it's probably no good. But I'd like to use it on this Baofeng I have. So I'm going to change out this cable and see if I can use some adapters to make it where that antenna will work for this radio. Anyway, let's see how this goes. Alright, so far all I've done is disconnected this piece of coax, and it's pretty stiff stuff. It might still be good, but the fact that there was a lot of mud on the other end tells me that moisture got in, and once moisture gets in, these things are pretty much done. Now, one thing that I noticed is all the little connectors I have are, I can't remember the type of fitting this is, but it's this fairly common connector, and I don't think I've ever seen a connector like this before. And that's what's on there right now, and all that stuff that's on the Yagi looks pretty good. So what I'm going to try to do is reuse this fitting. That way I don't have to go hunting for a fitting, and I don't have to swap a bunch of parts, because it looks, at first glance it looked pretty simple. Looking at it some more, there's going to be a lot of soldering and desoldering, so I'm going to try to save that. See how it goes. Well, when looking at the crosscut, this looks like it's much higher quality than what I'm going to be replacing it with. But since I'm just going to be messing around with it, I don't think it's that big of a deal. There's a nice big chunk of copper in there, and you can see there's a little, let me see if I can zoom in. You might be able to see there's a little swirl where it looks like it's just a piece of cord wrapped around, but that's the insulation. And it looks like the way it's wrapped is it's partially an air core insulation, which is really good for ham radio stuff. But the fact that I could tell it was outside for who knows how long, I guarantee that's compromised, because once moisture gets into this plastic insulator, it starts turning into a bit of a conductor, and you just can't do anything with that. So let me zoom back out. Okay, so let's see how easy or hard it is to clean some of this junk off. You can tell they use silicone to try to waterproof this, and there was a rusty mount on the Yagi antenna, so you can tell somebody's been using that antenna outside for quite a bit of time. Let me see if I can get some more tools here. Now, it doesn't feel like it's soldered all the way through. If it's not, that's actually good for me, because it'll be easier to take apart. Let's see. No. Yeah, they got quite a bit of, oh, there you, yeah, wow. They put it together pretty much how I'm probably going to put it back together. There's quite a few of these little rubber gaskets It wasn't installed right. You can see how these wire strands kind of just cut through. I might not put these rubber gaskets on. If I think it's for insulation, I'll do it, but I don't think it is, and this isn't going to be outside. So, and what I like to do is I like to get some non-conductive dielectric grease and pack these fittings. That way when you put it together, the grease actually oozes out and there's pretty much no way you're going to get any moisture getting in there. And then after that, I use this, it's like a silicone wrap that the silicone kind of fuses onto itself as you're wrapping. So it gives a nice watertight seal. But I'm just glad that it looks like it's going to be easy enough to reuse this. I'm just going to desolder this piece right here, and hopefully it just comes right out. But you never know. There's a little hole for soldering, and I bet the hole goes all the way through. So let's see how easy or hard this is. I've been trying to clean the shop and well, the shack, and things got crazy. Haven't been in the shack for very long, and things kind of get messy when you're halfway through cleaning something and you just stop. I might have to crank up the heat, because the goal is to take this little sleeve off, but it's got quite a bit of copper it needs to heat up, because that's a nice solid conductor. Oh, there we go. That was nice. And it's fairly clean on the inside, which means we should have no problem reusing that. Now let's look at this assembly again. I'm pretty sure it was something like that. Let's see. See, would it have been like that? Guess I should have paid a little more attention. Let's see, which way makes more sense? You know, part of me says something like that makes a little more sense. But yeah, because I can't picture this. Maybe the fibers get folded over and it pushes on there and crunches in there. I'm not sure. But I don't think for what we're doing, I don't think it matters. What does matter is how far back you have this insulation and how long that's stripped back. Those do matter. I got some decent cable here. So let's see how it goes. If I don't have a box cutter in here, I don't think. I have it over in the house. Let's see. Let's just do a little bit more than needed. If I mess up, I'll just redo it. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway. Let's see. Maybe first. Nope. Okay. Now I like to try to unbraid these. See the strands sitting out. Now we fold it back. It's easier. It doesn't bunch as much. Okay. Now do something like that. Okay. Just make sure you don't have any conductors bridging between the shielding and the center conductor. If I was being professional about it, I would have redone it because you don't want any cuts. But for what I'm doing, this is perfectly fine. Probably actually going to have to cut a few more to fit that in. But let's continue, see what happens. Something like that. Another pro about the solid conductor would be it's far easier to thread everything in when it's one solid piece. I'm gonna have to cut one of these strands, or maybe two, make it a little thinner. Again, for what I'm doing, it's fine. I'm planning on only putting about maybe 3 watts through this. I'll probably end up doing 5. I think 5 watts is the max my Baofeng can actually put out. But with a Yagi like this and a handheld like that, it's more of a what's the bare minimum I can put out and still get a good strong signal. And the only reason I'm doing this right now, I've been putting it off for a while, is because my friend and I are going to be messing with our ham radios tomorrow, and I'd really like to just mess around and see what this thing can do. Who knows, if I end up liking this Yagi, I might redo this with some better cable and make it a permanent installation. Let's just do these 3. By the time I'm done, this thing's going to be pretty butchered. but who cares? It's just for, right now it's just for one day. So we'll see, man. That's decently on there. Let's crank up the heat. I really wish I had more hands, but what are you gonna do? I think that's good enough. Just gonna do something like that. Maybe trim. Maybe trim these back a little bit. That way. As they're being folded back onto here, it just pinches between this little chamfer. And that would actually give a pretty good connection. You know, these cheap fittings, I tried in the past when I'm putting the connectors on to make a solder connection between the shielding and the base here, and I always ended up melting the insulator. So I just kind of gave up on that because these are really cheap parts. If it was something I was going to have be a permanent installation, you know, I'd take my time, get the right parts, spend the extra few bucks. But this might just be used for one day, so this will be good enough. And let's see. I think it might just be too long right here, because I can kind of hear them digging into the threads. But then again, maybe not. Another nice thing about this being a temporary connection is I can always watch the video when I'm done, save the parts, and do it right the second time if there is a second time. Because in the video it'll show me the exact order in which I took this thing apart. But that should be good. Let me put these somewhere safe. Alright, now I'm just going to make this the same length but a little bit longer. I'll just do it the full length of the wire. I'm going to save that, even though it's pretty dirty. It doesn't look too dirty on the inside. Plus I can just clean it and it should be okay. And I'm sure my friend knows exactly what kind of connector that is, but he's been doing this far longer than I have. So he knows a lot more than I do. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. This goes on something like that. And you strip it back. I'll show you how it's done, but this kind of just screws in, and that's all that's going to be holding that on. They have this little adapter here to make it more universal, but it's been a while since I've made one of these connections. Probably about 4 years, 5 years. So let's just have at it. Again, it'd be a much cleaner connection if I had a box cutter. I just scored it around and pulled this off, but I'm too lazy to go in the house and get it. Okay, like always, put a little fresh solder on the tip. Apply some heat. Wait for things to heat up and then start feeding the solder. Quite a bit of solder went in there, so that's a fairly good connection. Just taking off any pointy bits. So yeah, there you have it. Let's see. So this connection is the new connection, not like this one. So this one's going to go to the Yagi, and then this one's going to go to the Baofeng. But now I'm going to have to look up these connections because I can never remember what they're called. So there's one connection, and a while ago I got these little adapters, and in theory see. So I don't want that. Let's see, make sure that is actually the right. Yep. Okay, so in theory, that plugs in there. It's a little clunky, but it'll get the job done. You got quite a few adapters. I could probably have found a better adapter, but whatever. So there you have it. This will now connect to the Yagi antenna, and this thing's not charged at the moment, but once I have that charged, then I'll wire it all up and make the final connections and see what happens. Alright, so I remade the connection here, and then I retaped it just like it was before. Now what I did is did a continuity test, make sure the ground over here is grounded to the pole, and it is. Then I made sure that the ground didn't leak over to the transmission on this little dipole here. Well, I don't think that's a dipole. I think that's just a single pole antenna. And I just made sure all this corrosion and stuff, none of it is broken. It looks kind of ugly from first glance, but if you look, there's good solid solder connections and nothing's broken. So in theory, this Yagi should work pretty well, but won't know until we try it.